Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next episode of Getting to Know the Ambassadors. Today, I'm hosting Tim Klein, one of the ambassadors that is actually geographically very close to me, right here out of Cologne. Tim and I are not in the same place. We are connecting virtually today, but we get to see each other, fortunately, quite often. Tim, welcome to the show, more or less. Happy to have you as an ambassador and really excited to be talking to you today about your personal Agile journey.
Hi, Sohrab. Nice to meet you here in virtual room, even if we are only, 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers in distance. Yeah, excited to have a little and intense chat about my journey and our, let's say, upcoming joint journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Upcoming joint journey. And I mean, we've worked together in the past, but Tim, similar to all the other ambassadors, where I want to start is how did your personal Agile journey start? Like, where did you, for the first time, encounter Agile ways of working? What were the challenges that you, your organization, were facing at that point in time? Like, how did this all start and when?
So, from my background, I'm a business administration guy, so diploma of business administration, and I've had a lot of years in classical waterfall projects. So I was really in project management, and by that time, end of 2011, something about that, I was working as head of product for an hotel reservation platform, very well known in Germany. And by that time, yeah, it was a kind of a hype starting to become agile, to work Scrum. And yeah, so we got these trainings to become a Scrum Master or product owner. And I was quite skeptical at first, on the first hand, as I was deep in that in that project management thing. And MS Project was my go-to tool. So, I've had kind of respect to change our ways of working, but at least I was open to try. And it took some time to, let's say, not only convince me um, on the brain level, that was easy to understand something like framework Scrum, but let's say the time it took to, let's say, have that gut feeling and the feeling in my heart that the agile ways of working are, at least in complex environments, a better way of working, took at least 1.25 years. Yeah.
1.5 years. Now, that's interesting. I didn't know that piece, that you were already the head of product before your Agile journey started. Now, walk me through the challenges that you were facing as a head of product, and maybe connected to that, the organization as a whole, and why you started to become interested in Scrum or other ways of, like, other Agile frameworks. Probably it was not only, oh, this is now the new thing to do, but you, knowing you, immediately connected it to certain challenges. So what were those challenges, Tim?
So it was a very intense business, very marketing-driven business, very fast business with roughly about, let's say, 11 million unique customer visitors on that platform per month. So quite huge and challenging thing, digital-only business and so on. And of course, I've started as a product owner, as I see as well, not only as a head of, but of course, as we have set up Scrum teams and we haven't had enough product owners. So my challenge was to become product owner for 3 teams in parallel. So it was not possible to do that, to be honest. And I would say I made every mistake you can make as a product owner, I would guess, by that time. And so we tried to do anything, let's say, related to Scrum. We thought it was Scrum. I think it was quite mechanical when we started back then. Yeah, I was just struggling to, let's say, have my own transformation from my project management stance to product thinking. And this is what I have a lot of respect for all people who face that. in their jobs. So this is what I see quite often, that this transformational part is not only the transformation of the organization or the company, but also the personal transformation of my history, of my experiences, of my stance.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Tim, if I understand correctly, you mentioned very sales-driven business, like a lot of volatility probably in the business, also with the ups and downturns of the economy, this being hotel reservation services, something like that. Also, like very much depending on how the economy as a whole is doing. Now, you as a product owner, individual contributor initially, then head of product, and with your skill set as a project manager, you emphasized that several times. What happened in that 1.5 years that you mentioned earlier that it took you to transition internally, mentally? What were the things that ultimately helped you embrace this and actually become a big promoter of this?
On the first hand, I made experiences with elements of the Scrum framework, which really show a difference to me, like the retrospective, like the dailies, like the review. So I underestimated these elements of the framework beforehand. So for me, it was retrospective. It's I know that from the project management post-mortem or lessons learned at the end of the project. And then I figured out, okay, that's different. Wow, the team itself is figuring out how to solve problems. The team itself come up with problems to solve for their ways of working and so on. So this was the one thing. The other thing was that I understood retrospectively what complexity means. So I figured out what in my consultancy years, I've worked on a lot of big financial systems and banking systems, what complexity meant in these projects. Mm-hmm. And by comparing these experiences I've had in project-driven, huge migration projects and so on, I saw that these agile ways of working, the agile principles and values would have helped me beforehand in the former days. And by that, it was this change that, so let's say firsthand, I thought, this agile thing, this Scrum stuff, yes, let's apply that to little things, to small projects, but not to the huge ones, yeah? And this change was that I saw, wow, especially the huge ones, especially the really complex ones, are not plannable. So, of course, you can do very good project management and change request management and so on. But that was the click and the aha moment for me to see, okay, it's complex. I cannot plan anything or everything in advance. I have to react on situational things. So this situational awareness is important. And more, I would say I become more customer driven and customer focused, and not this, let's say, stakeholder focused or following someone who was just giving me orders to build features and so on. But also this took time. So in my first years as product owner, to be honest, I was very delivery oriented and not customer focused, but more, let's say more project focused.
More output than outcome focused, huh?
Of course, I did not even know the word outcome in the beginning, to be honest. Of course not. As Scrum, as a framework, is a quite delivery-oriented framework. There's no hint you can have from the Scrum framework how product discovery or outcome-driven development is really to be done. It's only the sentence you have to maximize, as product owner, you have to maximize the value of the team's output. But how to do that, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before getting into that how, because this is what you're focusing on today, right? And I will definitely cover that in our interview. But I also perceive you as somebody that is, I mean, back then probably you didn't have the term outcome, sorry, but you were still like very much results focused. And I assume, and please correct me if my assumption is wrong, that one of the things that also contributed to you ultimately embracing this new way of working were probably early results that you saw. And one of the results you mentioned, hey, the team is by themselves thinking about how can we improve the way we do our work. But that in itself is not a business result. What kind of early business results did you see that then really got you convinced and made you a big promoter of this?
Let's remind I'm a business guy from my background.
Exactly.
And in that sense, I've learned, especially in that very hardcore e-commerce business, I've learned not by the agile way of working, but from the business of e-commerce, very funnel-driven, conversion-oriented thinking. And more, we got into user interviews, user labs, and these were aha moments as well. I remember user lab sitting behind a mirrored wall or mirrored glass and examining users to try out our new app or booking process and failing with that. So I was seeing, wow, how can that person not be able to understand our, I don't know, book, it was date picking. Yeah. It was by that time, little story around that, was by that time, Apple have this change in the iOS that the date picking was changed from that rolling, rolling date months and to the date picker in the month, in the calendar form. And we were quite lucky to be innovators or picked by Apple to be on the day of release of the iOS update, were presented by Apple to be one of the first apps who used that new abilities of the iOS version, and of course the date picker. So we got with that into a user lab, and we were quite proud to have the new stuff and cutting edge things. And then we figured out no one was understanding that, how to pick a date. And
which is important if you want to book a hotel room, right?
Quite. So, and I, from my background as a consultant, having had hotel bookings and travel for 11 years in a consultancy, so I thought I know what business travelers have to do in that hotel booking app. But then I saw how users really fail to use our product. And that was getting me humble to understand, okay, I'm not really knowing what and how users react. I think maybe I have hypothesis how they will act and so on. So that was more or less one of the tipping points or changing points where I changed my mind around thinking to know what users need to having assumptions. And by that, more in the last years, I became more, or I dig deeper in the product management bubble and become more and more an expert in product management practices and hypothesis-driven product development. And that was seeing business results by seeing users react. So let's say figuring out which outcome our output brings, and then seeing in the next step which or what impact these outcomes in sense of money and business KPIs really do. This is kind of part of my journey.
Yeah. Now, this is exactly where I wanted to go next, right? So you started out in 2011. Back then, traditional project manager, started to become a product owner, ultimately head of product. You start experimenting with this agile ways of working, primarily Scrum, and you already highlighted one of the, let's call it missing piece for the lack of better words, right? Other than stating maximizing the value of the work of the developers, it's not mentioned how a product owner should do this. And maybe this is also part of the beauty of Scrum, that it leaves a lot of gray zone out there, but still that blank needs to be filled, right? And you have been focusing, as far as I know, or as long as I know you, on product management practices. And together with two other of our ambassadors, Dominic and Oliver Winter, they're not related, just share the same last name. You have also started your basically own company around Produktwerker, your own podcast, only available in German language. But what was it that drove your curiosity to explore this product management space? And how are you ultimately bringing those two communities, the agile, mostly focused on delivery community, and the product management community, mostly focused, hopefully, mostly focused on outcomes? How do you bring those two things together?
Yeah. These are not only two communities. These are, for me, let's say, two islands which we have to bridge. So for the last years, let's say in the years of the pandemic, I started to dig more or deeper in the product management world. And I was figuring out that as in the agile world, there's a huge lack of product knowledge. In the product world, there's a huge lack of agile knowledge. So our mission nowadays is more or less to bridge that gap, mostly coming from the agile world, building bridges to product management practices. So our claim more or less now is bringing product management to product owners. So that's one of the critique a lot of the product management guys have, that product owners are more or less only a, let's say, technical product project manager and not thinking product wise, but only delivering and not doing discovery. That critique might be fair in several or in a lot of situations. And my mission is to fight against that, to, let's say, give product owners in their role where they all most often come from technical backgrounds and so on, give them an idea what product management means, what modern product management means, with continuous discovery techniques, with assumptions and experiments and so on. So all this stuff from Marty Kagan, Teresa Torres, Dave J. Bland, and so on, is so unknown in the agile space, even for product owners in the agile space, that it's part of my mission to give transparency or connect this. And since 3 years, I'm in the very close circle of Marty Kagan's and SVPG coaches the coaches community. So a community of European and nowadays worldwide product coaches he has connected back then. And so I'm very happy to have a huge network, or international network of very well experienced product coaches to share ideas and knowledge, and to meet them as well and exchange.
I think that's a very important mission, something that definitely needs to be done. Now, what I would be curious about, at one point you mentioned modern product management, because traditional product management is also not what people like Marty are advocating for, right? Traditional product management was in itself reliant on the waterfall approach to building products, with very long feedback loops and not true customer centricity. So it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is it's not only about bringing modern product management to product owners, but also teaching the new generation of product managers how to do proper product management. Is that correct, Tim?
Absolutely correct. So the, let's say, waterfall ways of working in traditional product management is to start a PRD, to write down everything and then handing it over to the, let's say, IT department or external agencies to develop that. And that was, to be honest, that was also the way of working in product management when I had the chance to become the head of product in that company I was talking beforehand. And this was also a change. So product management has also to face a change in how they work. And this is also connected to the idea of, or to the importance of understanding that these are all hypotheses firsthand we have, and that this is to try to understand the jobs users and customers have to do, or the problems they have to solve. Teresa Torres would name that as the opportunities that you have to find, and then to discuss the solutions for these.
Yeah.
And that's more or less one of the huge problems we all have. We are all great in discussing solutions, but not so good in, let's say, finding the insights around opportunities and problems, gains, needs, desires, wishes. So yeah, that's what I want to bring to the table for the Agile Academy ambassadors and for our network to, let's say, building the bridge also for our ambassadors to the product management or modern product management world.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important one. Now, you mentioned Teresa Torres several times. One of the key books that she has written is Continuous Discovery Habits. And I love the book starting out with its title. One is it talks about continuous. So discovery is not a one-time effort. And the other is she talks about habits. So that you as a team, and starting out with the product manager or product owner or whatever your role is called, you have to be curious about understanding your customers deeply. And what you were talking about earlier, right? We're good at talking about solutions, but we're not good at talking about the problems and the opportunities that present. So when you today start working with a new client, Tim, what is usually your approach? What kind of questions, do you ask first? And where do you start changing things in how the client does their work?
So quite basically, I, as a foundation, firsthand, really, I provide this understanding of problem space versus solution space. Very super basic, but totally important. Second, I give spread the idea of product discovery, as you mentioned it, and seeing that not as a next waterfall approach, first discovery, then delivery, as you mentioned, but starting with this idea of continuous discovery habits, as you mentioned, is that I want or try to give the customers an idea that continuous interviewing is so important, so that you really have the touch points to gather insights from your users and customers. Then, what is also quite important, is that all that the thing of vision, strategy, product roadmap, and connecting these things with the daily work and decisions in product backlogs. So what I see a lot of times is either companies don't have even a business strategy. Teams don't understand in which direction they have to head with their products and services. So secondhand, perhaps they don't even have a product vision. And if they have one, it might be such, let's say, a piece in the shelf or in the wiki, so which is not lived. So then the next step is to create a product vision. I've just had this week and last week super cool workshops with clients to create their own product vision for their product. And the first problem is, what is our product? So defining that is also a piece of work I do with them. And then it's about connecting these vision with the daily work, and to empower the teams also to make decisions day by day, which follow the direction we have stated out with the vision. And this is also a huge gap between the vision, and it's not the value proposition to marketing wise to the public, but more the motivating and inspiring vision to the internal stuff. So bridging that from vision to sprint goals, for instance, it's about creating your own product strategy and setting up outcome-based product roadmaps. And I definitely say product roadmaps, not project roadmaps, because that's the second trap you also always see that you see Gantt charts or project-driven, output-driven, milestone-driven roadmaps out there. But if you have such an outcome-oriented product roadmap, which directs or which are within the boundaries of your product strategy and which directs to your product vision you want to aim for, then you have the chance to connect your daily or weekly sprint goals to your next outcome step. Yeah, so the team is able then to decide on daily work doing A or B, which is more bringing us to our direction we want to come. And of course, it's not so easy to set up a vision, a strategy, a product roadmap, blah, blah, blah. So for that, I'm a very big fan of product principles. Not so well known, but for me, a super magic glue between vision and your daily work.
Yeah.
And that's even in the product management world, quite underestimated, I would say, practice or idea. And I have super fun to give that very lightweight method, let's say, or practice to the teams or to companies and, let's say, gather their or find their 3 to 6 product principles, which then really works as a kind of decision framework for your daily work, that your decisions, especially in trade-off decisions, lead in the right direction.
I think, I mean, this is very much the school of Marty Kagan, and there's a reason why he also chose you, being one of the SVPG, not partners, but like part of the community, the global community. And
but not, let me add that, not only Marty King, but also Martin Erickson, founder of the Mind the Product movement.
Absolutely.
And by that, to mention it as well, I'm one of these, or part of this network of the product tanks, the meetup network, worldwide meetup network of Mind the Product. And so I'm one of the co-hosts and organizers of the here local Cologne product tank. So having a product management meetup, I'm
once
driving
a month,
with
right?
others.
Something like that.
Every second month, yeah.
Every second month. Amazing. Tim, we're at the end of our time box, right? We value time boxing a lot. I learned again a few new things about you, although we've had a lot of interactions in the past. And I'm super excited to be doing this journey going forward with you together and other members of Produktwerker. So thank you very much for taking the time, having this conversation with me today. And see you soon.
Thanks, Sohrab. Happy to start the journey with all the ambassadors and, let's say, bringing product management, modern product management to the Agile Academy Ambassadors community.